Hi everyone, this is Ken Herron. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of UnifiedInbox.com. On March 16th, I was invited to speak at the Digital in Kent conference on the topic of global best practices for social media in 2017. For those of you who weren't able to join us, or those of you who may have had audio problems with the broadcast, I wanted to give a short overview of what we discussed there in Kent. So these are the 5 things you should be doing right now on social media. Let's get started. At the end of this presentation, you'll be able to answer the following questions. What are the top 12 global social networks? What are the current best practices for them? What new tool will you download onto your mobile today, onto your smartphone? And that really is your homework. As you listen to this, think as we go through the different tools and make a commitment to yourself. What one tool will you download at the end of this presentation that will help you to move your business forward on social media? What 5 things should you be doing to grow your business? And of course, if you have any questions you would like to answer, as I'm not able to see you raise your hands as you're watching this, please feel free to tweet me on @Ken Herron, KenHerron. The top networks. Now, refer to this as the baker's dozen, and listen carefully because not all of them are on the slide. Some of the most important networks are the ones that you yourself control. So right now, from a global perspective, when people ask me the question, what social network should I be on? I'm B2B, I'm B2C, I sell tractors, I sell cosmetics. The answer is always the same. Be on the social networks where your target audience, and that can be prospective customers or existing customers, be on the social network or social networks where they spend their time. It's not about what you use personally. It's not about even what you use in your country. Realizing I'm speaking to a global audience, it's who is your customer, where do they spend their time online, and then identify those networks. So the top ones, Facebook, many people use that personally. Instagram, photo-based site, which is growing very, very rapidly. We are also seeing them be hyper aggressive in every fun new feature that Snapchat has, they are helping themselves to it. Twitter, of course, and Twitter is a special network in the sense that it has a very direct relationship with Google. So when you put content up on Twitter, even if you can correctly make the argument that, oh, my audience isn't on Twitter, or the country I'm targeting, they're not big on Twitter at this point, understand that when you tweet something, it becomes instantly available on Google. And in most countries of the world, Google is still the #1 search engine for how people can discover you personally as a business professional, your company, your brands, and your products. Meetup is often not taken quite as seriously, but can be especially valuable if you're in the B2B space and you're not going after a mass market, but you're going after a very specific, very focused market, whether it is geographical or just in nature of the business. Pick an example. Let's say you're going after people who are really into Belgian comic books. That is a very specific niche. While there are many, many websites out there, you may be better targeted to target the meetups in different cities that are really interested in what you have to sell. Periscope, some people think of that more as a tool now for live streaming than an actual network, but it is still an actual network, very heavily allied towards Twitter. I will answer the question that I am asked most often. Should I live stream on Facebook Live or using Facebook Live, or should I live stream using Periscope? And the answer is very simple. If your audience, the bulk of your audience is on Facebook, absolutely use Facebook Live if you're live streaming. If the bulk of your audience is on Twitter, or better said, you don't yet have an audience, then Periscope should be the chosen tool. And there's nothing to stop you from hooking up 2 cell phones on a dual selfie stick and recording using both of them. Pinterest. Pinterest is an interesting site in that of all the social networks, it has the highest intent to buy. While it is still very focused in the food, the clothing, The event space, if those happen to be your niches, that has now become a must be on site. Google Plus, a little bit of the Rodney Dangerfield of sites. People tend to make fun of it. They don't take it as seriously. Remember, Google Plus is owned by Google. When you do a posting on Google Plus, especially if you are a business that has very time-sensitive events, a restaurant with the meal of the day, the special of the day, or a business event who's giving a webinar or doing something to promote your business, really take Google Plus seriously. Literally in less than a minute, whatever you post on Google Plus becomes available on Google. LinkedIn, of course, I realize there are some regional professional business networks. LinkedIn is still the largest globally, and many of the people I work with, they are targeting customers. They are looking to grow their networks outside of their home markets. So definitely have a profile, both personal and company, on LinkedIn. SlideShare, very powerful tool. Arguably, this is one of the hidden gems, the hidden champions of social media, and that has a very active community and is very content based. SlideShare is an excellent site if you have invested heavily over the years in ink on paper, what we think of as traditional marketing collateral, sales collateral. It's very easy for you to take that, scan it if you have to, save it as a PDF file, upload it, fully tag it up on SlideShare, and it really can make your business and the value of what you're selling much more accessible. YouTube, of course, for video, even though all of the other sites have now become much more business friendly. YouTube, partly because of its size and its scope. That doesn't mean you ignore other video sites, but if you have video content, especially longer form video content, YouTube is something to take seriously. And of course, one of the newest sites, Snapchat. People who are selling forklifts, people who are selling business software, maybe this is not the site where you should spend the bulk of your time, clearly, but if you are going after a very young audience, having a profile, having a presence here can help you to better communicate, better to engage them, and Snapchat continues to grow. For all of these sites, the rule is not to have a profile, an active profile on all of them. My guidance, however, is that your company, your brand, whether that's you personally or your business, should have a presence on all of them, even if it says in the profile, hey, I'm much more active on Facebook, please connect with me there, or I'm much more active on Twitter, please connect with me there. When websites first came into vogue, there was a real problem with people stealing, not that it was necessarily a crime, but going ahead and registering other people's names on sites. We see the same today with social media. It's always a good offensive strategy to go in, and if you have your company name, to go and capture that on all of these different sites, and again, point them, go ahead, fill out the profile, take advantage of it. That's a quick 5-10 minute activity for each site, and then direct them to the site where you spend the most time. I suggested that, hey, there's a couple missing sites here. It is your own company's website. It is your own company's blog, and I will add to that your own company's mailing list. For the simple reason that all of the social networks I've listed here aren't under your control. You don't get to say what happens. You wake up in the morning and they've made a change to the site. They've made something that was once free for pay, or they've simply eliminated something. When you have your own website, your own blog, and your own mailing list, those are assets that are under your control. So this is not to say not to use social media. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of using it, but it's to use it in conjunction with the assets you fully control, you fully own. Next slide. I usually start out any engagement when we're talking about marketing. The first question to ask is, what is it you want to achieve? Based on how you answer that question, that will determine your social media marketing strategy. Many people are just looking to engage and to get more value out of their current customers. Others are very hungrily prospecting and are really looking to grab new customers, new users for whatever it is you're selling, product or service. How you answer that question really does guide how you use social media. Who is my audience? In as much specificity as you can to really understand your customer. Where do they spend their time online? This is critical. If you don't know this, it is 100% acceptable to ask and to ask frequently because this is always changing as to where people are spending the bulk of their time. Everyone may have an account on Facebook. That doesn't mean that is where they are spending the bulk of their time. So it's helpful to understand the people you're targeting, where are they really spending their time online? And of course, the fourth one, some people could argue this is the most critical. I'd push back, they're all critical. What differentiates you? You've heard of the unique selling proposition, unique value proposition. To really understand why people choose you and give you their money for what you're selling over the competition. To the extent you really understand that, that is where your mojo is. That is where the opportunity is in marketing. So again, before you invest any time, effort, or money in social media marketing, and I would argue any marketing, have really clear answers to these questions. And if you're in a larger organization, make sure you have agreement on these questions because if people are working at cross purposes, you're not going to see the results you want. For those who are still resisting, I still meet people who think, social media is just a trend, it's a fad, it's not for me. I get all my business through referrals. I don't need to fuss and spend my time with this. A quick list of the whys and then how you do them. You're doing it because you want to be first choice. You want to be top of mind. And of course, the way you do that is to be first choice by being valuable, by being present in your customers' lives. This is even more important if you happen to sell products or services that people use only on an occasional basis. It's a little bit easier if you're using products or services that people are using on a daily or a weekly basis because they are thinking of you more often or thinking of the purchasing decision more often. Let's use the example of whiteware, home appliances, a washer and dryer. This isn't something most of us purchase on a regular basis, hopefully. So the appliance manufacturers use social media to help us on a daily basis. Here's how you can get your whites whiter. Here's how you can get your colors brighter. Uh, to find a way to engage in the conversation so when it does come around that we are looking for a new washer or dryer, there's already a relationship there. You've heard the expression, I only buy from you because I know you, I like you, I trust you. That used to be the role of advertising. I would suggest social media in large part has really supplanted that. You want to be visible. You do that by being present. You also want to be known. You do that by being helpful in whatever helpful means for you and your business. It can mean helping people through the purchasing decision. If I'm buying a new car, if I'm buying a new home, those can be complex processes that involve a lot of money. And because people don't do them on a regular basis, they can be confused by it. If you can help people through the purchasing process, help them to understand how they can pick the product or service that is right for them, you become first choice because you become trusted. That you're not trying to sell them, and we'll speak more about that in a moment, you're really trying to help them. And by helping them, you become the preferred and the trusted vendor. You want to be liked, and through that, you provide value. And that value can differ widely. You can be entertaining, you can be actionable, you can be provocative, as is appropriate for your brand. You can even be inspirational, but by providing value is how you get to be liked, as we said, to be trusted. You understand your business better than most of your customers, arguably all of your customers, because you're thinking about this day in and day out. Share that experience that you're not just selling a product or service, you're helping a customer to satisfy whatever their wants and needs may be. We've all heard the expression that the drill buyer is not really buying a drill, they're buying the ability to make holes without hurting themselves or doing damage or or having to spend the money to have someone come in and drill the holes for them. Share your experience. That really humanizes you, that really connects you to people. You've heard the expression, I know social media is social. Well, what does that mean? That means it's not about bots, it's not about the automation, it's about the one on many connectivity. Social media enables you and your business to engage people at scale. When you answer one person's question on social media, you're answering that question where maybe 10, 100, or 1,000 people had that question as well. And be the expert, be approachable. Answer questions when they're asked, and they don't necessarily have to be asked of you. I use the example of when I worked for a large hotel company. Without fail, I would have high-end suites in Paris available for the weekend that just didn't sell. Very high-end suites, huge profit margins. So to have an unsold room was not good from a marketing perspective. I would look for people saying, hey, can anyone recommend a hotel room in Paris this weekend? It doesn't matter the network. I happen to use Twitter. People are asking for recommendations. When you go in as an expert to be helpful and say, hey, I have a recommendation. Here's two really great neighborhoods. Uh, by the way, I have full disclosure, you're not trying to pull one over on anyone. I happen to work for a hotel company and we've got some great deals for Paris. Are you interested? Without fail, close to 100% success rate, and not necessarily in the way you might think. It's not always the person who asked the question, it was person who saw the question and was looking for the answer for themselves. So that's the why and the how of social media. I hate to give hard rules because so much of social media is about understanding the best practices, understanding what works and why, and then deciding for yourself and your brand when and how to break the rules. But three good rules: no barking, no broadcasting, no bots. And what does that mean in simple English? I see so many people who have been wildly successful, specifically in direct sales, hard sales, and they will go in and they will tweet, they will post, buy my stuff, over and over and over. And I'm thinking, okay, don't want to follow you. This is not helping me. You're not engaging. You're simply barking at me. You're telling me to do things. And that follows up with the next one: no broadcasting. Social media by design allows for interactive two-way communication. Listen more than you talk. So many people use it, they craft the perfect message, sometimes reusing their advertising messages. And again, it's talking at people rather than talking with people and engaging them in a conversation. Think of when you've gone to your last dinner party and there's someone there, typically in sales, often a very successful salesperson. Maybe it's insurance, maybe it's real estate, maybe it's financial services, and they're selling constantly. You will do anything to get away from that person. Contrast that with someone who's in the same industry, selling the same product or service, and they engage you in a conversation. Yes, at some point you are naturally going to ask, oh, and what do you do? But when they're engaging and they're more interested in simply having a relevant conversation, maybe they're charming, maybe they're entertaining, maybe they're funny, or maybe they're just informative. But when they engage you, you are much more likely to respond rather than run for the hills. That is why I strongly suggest no broadcasting. And the third one, in the past 12 to 18 months, this has become overwhelming: no bots. Social media is not something you automate to get it done and over with. I am seeing chatbots like crazy. Unified Inbox supports people and helps people with chatbots with their messaging. So if you're looking for one, please feel free to reach out. But with social media, it's not about automating the conversation. It's about keeping the conversation human. It's that essential quality. Part of it is the unpredictability. Part of it is the warmth, the engagement, the ability to go into detail. This is why, quite honestly, people accounts on social media typically perform better than company or corporate accounts. And yes, I know Starbucks and the major airlines and the major movie companies all have, huge, huge followings, but compare that to the actual individuals, the talent, if you will, of how many, many more millions of people they have because they are engaging with people, those who do it best, on a very personal level. So no barking, no broadcasting, no bots. Be you. This may sound a little silly to people, but your number one asset is you. The things that you are passionate about, that you are interested in, your background, your skills, experience, you're quirky, you're a data geek, whatever you are, be you. This also makes it much, much tougher for competitors to come in because if you're successful, they will copy your product or service. They will match your price. They may even one up you or have more resources for marketing and advertising. They can never, never be you. Now, there is something to be said that if you are a small business owner and you are thinking of retiring in another 20 or 30 years and actually want to sell the business, how much do you tie the account? Do you tie the marketing to you personally? I would suggest don't worry about that at this point. Be successful, and then we can always migrate to that to a company branding more than a personal branding. It really is you as an individual. And for those of you who are marketing in different languages, specifically different dialects or regional accents, if that is you, be you. Don't worry about using newscaster English, whatever is the slang, whatever is the language that you personally use, take advantage of that, leverage that. That really is an asset to your business. Images. It used to be we thought about social media as, okay, let's write something, and then, oh, yeah, we have to include an image or a visual. I suggest turning that on its head. Start with the visual. Start by thinking visually. What is the compelling, and not all of us are in travel, tourism, and hospitality. Not all of us are selling food, but a compelling visual really is worth the effort involved, whether it's original, which I always prefer that you have taken the photo, or it is one you have licensed. Stay away from the images that look like bad stock photography. We've all seen it, or the free graphics that come with your favorite presentation program. Really take a step out to use great images, and if you can use your customers or your users' images, so much the better. Simply put, images have greater impact, they are understood faster, and they are remembered longer. This image, by the way, comes from Istria. This was taken by one of the fellow participants on the Share Istria campaign last year. It makes you want to go to Istria. That is the purpose of this photo. It is a real photo. It was taken by someone who was out there in the kayak. This creates the response that the people of the Share Istria campaign wanted. Think about this for your business. You're a B2B business, you sell processes, you sell engineering. How can you illustrate that? How can you visualize it in a way that people can immediately and accurately understand the value of what you provide? That is just as compelling of an image as something on the water with a pretty sky. The three basics, we spoke through what are the different global networks. Regardless of the network, it really comes down to three basic aspects. And most people only think about or only even consider the third. The three are follower management, audience management, and content management. Let's start with follower management. This is about growing your network. Now, we do this in slightly different ways depending on the network, but look at LinkedIn. If LinkedIn is critical to your business, if this is where business happens for you, what are you doing to proactively connect with people? I will make the assumption that as you meet people in real life, you automatically connect with them all. That's great. Keep doing it. But what are you doing when you haven't been at a meeting in the past couple days, when you haven't been at a business event? What are you doing proactively on a daily, consistent basis to grow your network? Set a small quota for yourself. It can be as small as 5 people. Connect with them. Send them invitations to connect with you on LinkedIn. And it's the same on Twitter, Facebook, whatever the channels are that matter, that you have determined are important for you to be active on for your business. Connect with people. Social media does favor the OCD, by the way. So think about what is the time per day you can spend and do that every day. And yes, that's 7 days a week, not just 5 days a week when it's convenient for you. Audience management. Many of us still have physical phones at our business, even if it's our smartphone or cell phone. When that phone rings, you pick it up. That's business, that's opportunity. The number of people I see who ignore when they are being talked about on social media, and of course, if you're not on that particular account and you don't have an account on that particular social media channel, you're not going to see these. Don't ignore it when people are talking about you. Don't ignore it when people are directly asking you questions. That's not just lost business opportunity from that person. Everyone sees that you're ignoring them. Everyone sees that you're not answering them. It's a hard truth. We don't get to pick the social channels we have to be on. Our customers pick them for us. So whether it's one channel or it's multiple, there are many different tools out there that can help us to monitor what's being said about us everywhere online all the time. Brandwatch happens to be one of my favorites, but I won't take sides here. Use the tool. Many of them are free. Use the tools that work for you. Content management. This is the piece that most of us are more familiar or more comfortable with. I write up a post, I take a photo or a video, and I send it out there. Important, again, to do consistently, to do well, but in conjunction with also doing follower management and audience management. Tools. And I will mention that Unified Inbox does make a social media publishing tool called Outbox Pro. Listeners to this recording can get 100 free posts. Go to app.outbox.pro. For the tools, the best ones out there, the native mobile apps, that if there's a social network you actively use for your business, download the mobile apps, whether it's to your phone or to your tablet, understand how to use them. It used to be that the mobile apps were a subsection, a small percentage of the functionality of the desktop or the computer app. That has changed. It's not just that these social networks are now designing and thinking mobile first. And what that means is you will often have features on the mobile app that are not available in the desktop app or on the web version of the social network. There are also things that can be done much more quickly, much more easily. So if you are using, pick a network, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you're only using the desktop version, you're missing out and possibly spending more time managing the account than you need to. For Twitter itself, as on many accounts, the fake accounts, the bots, the adult sites, the spam, Manage Flitter is the tool I personally use. There are other good tools out there that helps me to identify the non-real people. We can take a quick segue. In certain countries, it is a big status to have a huge audience on your social media accounts. To achieve this, many companies and individuals have purchased large numbers of fake followers, fake connections, fake accounts. They do nothing for you. If you have done that, or if a prior marketing consultant or team member or boss has told you to do that, get out of it. Use a tool to scrub your account clean of that. Fake followers are never going to purchase your product. Fake followers are never going to recommend or be advocates for your product. And it is very, very obvious to anyone who looks. If you remember our past presidential campaigns in the US, one of the favorite things to do was to publicly share how many of a politician's followers on social media happen to be fake or purchased accounts. Adobe Spark Post, I cannot say enough about Adobe's suite of free tools. I really love Spark Post as a quick, easy tool to help you create very professional looking visuals to illustrate your posts. And as I said earlier, Start with the visual. Think visual first, and you will end up with better posts, but also different posts than you might have otherwise done. Foodie is a lot of fun. That's made by the people who make Line, the Japanese messaging app. It is a photo app specifically tuned to take photos of food. If you are a caterer, if you are anyone in the food business, you know how difficult it is to take great photos of food. From a lighting perspective and the rest of it, Foodie makes it much easier so that if you are a food truck, if you are a bar and grill and you're trying to take photos of your food and they just all look horrible, give Foodie a try. Layout is a fun tool that is made by Instagram, and it's an easy tool for photo mosaics. And what's nice, I should mention with all of these tools, even though some of them are made by or meant for certain social networks, these are all content creation tools that you can then use that content on any network. Waterlog is fun. It's good for, by the way, for landscapes, for homes, outdoor photos. It takes any image and it renders it as if it was a watercolor. Fun. You may argue, okay, not so good for my forklifts or my enterprise software, but a fun tool to have. Like all of these, you would never use them on a daily basis, but it's an interesting tool to play with and it has quite a few adjustments. So you really can customize the image. Moju is a fun tool that allows you to take 3D images of products. So if I'm selling a bottle of olive oil and I literally want to show the person the entire bottle, from up, upside, downside, walking around it, it allows me to show all angles of something. It's also one of the few content creation tools that puts in a kinesthetic element very specifically. If I'm selling a diamond ring, by using Moju, as I tilt my phone to view the message, I'm going around the ring. So it gives a very different level of physical interactivity to whatever the product is you happen to be selling. Hyperlapse is fun. We don't all shoot videos on boats and trains. Hyperlapse is fun because it is the software equivalent of a glide cam for your mobile phone, that you can play games with changing the speed and speeding things up for time-lapse videos, but it really is excellent to smooth things out. Something as simple that if you are filming something for, a 10, 20-minute period and you don't happen to have a tripod and you start to wobble, you start to shake, hyperlapse can eliminate all of that. I have taken video being on a boat on very, very rough seas, and when I look at the video, I am stunned that it looks much better than it had right to look. Looks like it was shot professionally with very high-end equipment, and it was on my mobile phone. Diddy, silly little app. It allows you to sing anything you can write. So you put in a sentence and it ends up singing the sentence to your choice of popular tunes. Okay, is it silly? Yes, but it can be attention getting and it can be fun. There's no reason why social media has to be serious all the time. Flipagram and Quick are two different applications, two different tools that allow, and I'll also throw Animoto in here as a third, that allow, Animoto can be a little pricey, I should mention, where Flipagram and Quick work very well in the free versions, that allow you to take a series of photos and videos and combine them into a longer form video. They're nice because they include music, and anyone who's tried to do music licensing for your video knows what a nightmare that is. So that if you have a lot of photos to put together, let's say you had an employee event and you've got 20, 50, 100 photos, these tools are a great way to make a fun, watchable short video instead of posting a huge number of photos. PhotoScan is a very interesting tool made by Google that if you have an actual paper document, ink on paper, we all remember that. If you have an actual document, trying to take a photo of a document on your phone, is ridiculously hard. You've got glare, you've got all sorts of issues where it just doesn't come out well. PhotoScan is a single purpose tool that allows you to take really great photos of physical documents. And ThingLink, add that in at the bottom. That's a fun little tool that allows you to put in multiple types of content to an image. So you take an image you like, you add different dots, different pinpoints around the image, and when people click on those pinpoints, up pops a video, up pops a web link, up pops a photo, up pops text. So you can do some very fun little interactive images. An example, you happen to sell engines. Okay, you want to label the different parts of the engine, or you want to explain the features of the different parts of the engine. You upload the engine photo in ThingLink, and then you add the little dots, and you can put in additional content in a single interactive image. Fun tools, not meant to be an exhaustive list, but these are the ones I personally use the most. I can't get away with talking about tools without saying that your single most important social media tool is your editorial calendar. The number of professionals who wake up every morning and say, what the heck do I post today? That's not the ideal way to do it. Better to take it a month at a time, before the end of the month, like, okay, next month, what's happening in my business? What's coming up? What are the events? What are the announcements? Think it through, and it makes the daily content creation much, much easier, and it ensures you don't miss out on opportunities. That you plan for your social media no differently than you would plan for your public relations or any other marketing activity. And full disclosure, this is a screen from my own cell phone showing some of the different tools I use. Most of those I covered. One I didn't that is a newer tool is called Prisma. Think of that as a filter tool that it applies some very interesting filter treatments to photos. I kind of joke with my team and say, when I use that, that's my bad photo tool. That let's say I go to an event, there's a photo I need to use. It's not a very good photo for whatever reason. Maybe it was a little blurry, maybe it was a little dark. It just was an unappealing, unattractive photo. I can find a Prisma filter that will make it interesting. It's not a photo editing tool. It won't make a bad photo better, but it will make a boring photo more interesting, and certainly interesting enough for use with social media. So next up, the 5 things. So get ready to yell and scream, get ready to shake your fist in the air, but for 2017, these are the big 5 I recommend. Get off of Facebook. I deal with a number of people in different countries. Facebook is the #1 social network, and the simple logic here is that Facebook is the people you already know. If you were only marketing and only care to market and communicate with the people who are already within your ecosystem, fantastic. But overwhelmingly, we are trying to get new customers. We are trying to reach people outside of our current ecosystem. Get off of Facebook. Just because it is still heavily used in your country doesn't mean it is still heavily used by your target customer, which is why it's so important to know where they are spending their time online. Use live content. This is new. Maybe in 2016 you shot videos, you put them together, you used it. The trend, and yes, it's popular when I say trend, but it's also on networks that don't allow 100% of content to be published, specifically Facebook and Instagram. When you use live content, Facebook Live video, for example, it goes to everyone who is in your network. It goes to everyone who is in your audience. So right now, the throughput for live content is massively better than for pre-recorded content. It's also more interesting, it's more engaging. It's a slightly different set of skills to do it and do well. But for those of us who hate video editing or feel like we never have the resources, this can be a very effective use of our time. Next, think visual first. As I said, instead of writing your daily posts and worrying about the text first, try it for a week. Before you put pen to paper or sit at your keyboard and write things, first come up with the image. I think you will be very happily surprised that not only will you have better images, that they're no longer an afterthought, they are the focus, but I think you will be very happy with the impact you see on your text as well. Next one, I mentioned that social media marketers benefit from having a little bit of OCD. You really want to do this, and by this I mean when you publish, whether you publish once a day or multiple times a day, do it at the same time because you're really teaching your audience when they can expect to see new content from you. You've heard the phrase, fish where the fish are. Understand when your rush hour is, when your peak time is, and that can vary tremendously based on country you're targeting, tremendously based on uh, your audience and when they are online. But find the times that work for you and be consistent with those. If you're posting erratically or at all different times, you're not going to get the same benefit out of your investment. The fifth one, and this is really sums it all up, be worth following. Think to yourself, who do you follow? And I don't mean follow because you know them or follow because you've done business with them. Who do you actually pay attention to? People who are helpful, people who are entertaining, people who are inspiring or provocative. There's a reason why you pay attention to certain media, because really this is the new form of social media. It is the new form of media. Think about, are you worth following? And if not, how can you be worth following by the people you want to follow you? Next up, to go through some of the fails, as I call them. These are the excuses I hear most often, and they just don't hold water. I don't have the time. If you have 10 minutes a day, you can have an effective social media presence. Most of us can find the 10 minutes a day, especially if social media is more effective than some of the other marketing communication things you're doing. You're selling, you're not sharing. You're broadcasting, you're not engaging. A big one, you're simply not listening. You're posting, you're publishing, but you're not really listening to what people want and need and how they're responding to you. Not self-identifying as you. This is a big one. That even if it is a company account, you need to let people know who you are. A very simple tweets by your name in the profile so that they can start to get to know you as a person. Not responding, not acknowledging. When people directly ask a question, even if it's one you don't know how to answer or if it's one that's off topic, by ignoring people, you're teaching people to not even bother to reach out to you. That's not helpful. Not caring, as I've said, social media is very human, very engaging. To show a little bit of empathy, a little bit of humanity when you're dealing with people goes a very, very long way. And the not caring, I'm not going to call out accounts by name, but I think we have all seen major PR and social media disasters befall airlines because their social media responses have specifically lacked any even little bit of empathy. Not being generous, and this isn't about money off promotions or coupons. This is about being generous with your expertise. That when people ask questions, help them. And when you help them, you have a fan for life that they are going to recommend you. And remember, if one person asks a question and you answer it publicly, how many more people have seen that answer to the question, how you've dealt with that customer, so will be more encouraged to seek you out when they want to do business with you. Repeating photos, repeating posts, I see this as well. Even if you need to market the same product or service over and over again, there's no need to use the same photo over and over again. It's teaching people to ignore you. That if I see a post with the same, oh, I've already looked at that. It could be completely different content, But because the photo is the same, I've given up, mentally on thinking that that is a new post that's worthy of my attention. Being boring, uh, you sell tax preparation services. You're in a stereotypically boring industry. That does not mean your account has to be boring. Uh, you should be excited about your industry, excited about your business, uh, even if it is a business that people have to do, like tax preparation. Help them through it. There's not an excuse for a boring account. I don't believe any people are boring or any companies are boring, so they should not have boring social media. Automating. Be very, very cautious with the automating. Automating of the analytics, absolutely. And automating the data to help you better understand your accounts, absolutely. When you start automating your content, I cannot tell you how many people I know personally, otherwise smart people, who have fallen for these keyword tools that say, well, I don't have time to do this posting stuff. It's nonsense. It's not worthwhile. Well, it isn't if you automate it or don't do it well. And they will use these keyword tools like, okay, my business is furniture restoration. They'll enter in the keyword and just set it to go. Just horrific, horrific. Actually, much better not to do it. Let someone else do it. Or maybe this just isn't what you should be doing. Copying others, and I'll say that with a bit of a smirk and a wink. You don't copy what others do, you learn from what others do and you do it one better. Because if you see something that's really clever, really smart, think about, okay, how can I use that for what I'm doing and then do it one better? And of course, as my audience for this was originally the people of Kent, not being Kentish. There is a history, there is a tradition, there is a love there. So it goes back to being you. If you happen to be from Kent and you happen to have a Kentish business, then by all means, please be Kentish on social media. Again, if you have any questions, please feel or comments, please feel free to add them to SlideShare or to tweet me at sign Ken Herron, Kenherron. And thank you. Thank you for listening. Whether you were live at the Digital in Kent conference or you discovered this on SlideShare, thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. Again, you can check out Outbox Pro on app.outbox.pro. You can check out Unified Inbox on unifiedinbox.com. And of course, I'm on Twitter at sign Ken Herron. Thanks.